Well, Matt, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Tell me how your Thanksgiving went.
Oh my goodness, my Thanksgiving. A lot of turkey, a lot of ham with cranberry sauce, some football, family, and all the other good things about Thanksgiving. And I hope yours was amazing as well.
Yeah, it was pretty chill. I mean, I had some turkey, uh, had some turkey and all that. Turkey, we got turkey from Talleyrand. My parents
Hmm.
got that. We didn't cook it. We just bought it at Talleyrand, where they have turkey there. They sell it every Thanksgiving, but and also enjoyed a lot of football here. But first off, we'll start recapping some Thanksgiving games. The
Yep.
Detroit Lions came away with a 23-20 win over the Chicago Bears. It is also because the Bears had a chance to win the game or tie the game, but poor clock management costed Matt Eberflus his job.
I was watching the final 32 seconds of that. So Caleb Williams takes a sack, and you had a timeout in your back pocket. You're taking out a field goal range. You're down by 3. What do you do in that situation? Here's what you do. You do a little short play to get back into field goal range. Even if you don't convert on third down, you get into a decent range to kick the game tying kick, hoping it doesn't get blocked. Then you give the Lions a little bit of time, but you don't actually give them a chance to actually kick a field goal themselves because the Lions were low on timeouts themselves. But here's what happens. Matt Eberflus was lollygagging on the sidelines. He doesn't call a timeout. The Bears are out of field goal range. Caleb Williams is trying to get everything together himself to keep everything organized. And no timeout was called, and it was like tick, 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 tick. Seconds coming off the clock. 26 seconds came off the clock before Caleb Williams snapped the football. And there was only one thing he could do at that point, and it was throw a heave, and it fell incomplete. That, to me, is the definition of a fireable offense as a head coach.
Yeah, now that Matt Eberflus is fired, Thomas Brown, the interim offensive coordinator, is going to be the interim head coach. And I feel like that Caleb Williams should play fairly better with Thomas Brown.
Thomas Brown's been a little bit of a rough circle over the last couple of weeks. I mean, he was promoted to offensive coordinator after they fired Shane Waldron. Now he's the interim head coach after Matt Eberflus got fired. And the Bears are taking on the 49ers this upcoming week. When we get in our picks, we'll probably give our little predictions about that. But the Bears, I feel bad for Caleb Williams. He has not had the dream rookie season we thought he would have. And unfortunately, the Bears have found 6 different ways to lose 6 straight games.
After a 4-2 start where people are like, time to take the Bears seriously, but now you're not taking the Bears seriously.
And it all started with that Commander's Hail Mary. They have not recovered.
Yeah, I could tell. Defensively, they're bad. I mean, Caleb Williams has to work extremely hard to get these wins.
Yeah, and it's not coming easy. I mean, the Lions. I know the Bears are their own sap story, and I understand that, but you got to give props to the Detroit Lions for bending but not breaking, and then also winning their first Thanksgiving game since 2016. This team never wins on Thanksgiving.
They don't, but now with Dan Campbell, it's slowly changed.
Yeah, because remember, Thanksgiving 2021, they got blown out of the water. Thanksgiving 2022, they also got blown out of the water. Thanksgiving 2023, they lost in close fashion. And then this year, voila.
Oh yeah, I mean the Detroit Lions. This is what you expect from the Detroit Lions. This is a gritty team. I mean, I always think that they've been a fun team to watch in the NFC North. I mean, Dan Campbell is the man.
I can agree. I can agree as well. I think that the NFC North, by the way, is the best division in football. No matter how you think of Sam Darnold, he's having a good season. Jordan Love is continuing to impress despite the shorthanded receiving core. The Bears are the only debacle of that division.
Yeah, even if they would have made the playoffs with this roster, they would have just gotten knocked out.
Oh, they would have gotten killed in the playoffs.
Yeah, and fired Eberflus just because I don't think ownership of the Bears is satisfied. They want a different direction. The Bears are falling back into time where they think a defensive-minded head coach would help build an effective offense with coordinators, but the time has ticked.
The time has come and gone that you can actually do that. And I think another problem with the Chicago Bears is the fact that they really don't have any sort of foundation. I mean, Ben Johnson is going to be the top option for them at head coach, assuming they get him. But outside of Ben Johnson, it's Ben Johnson, and then there's everybody else as far as who they can hire. Because
They have
I don't
Mike
think,
Vrabel on their radar, and I'm like, do you want another defensive-minded head coach?
no, you don't want to hire Mike Vrabel. He's a great head coach. He's a great leader of men, but not for that organization.
I don't think he would want to go to that organization. I mean, Mike Vrabel will be a top head coaching candidate somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere that's not Chicago. I think right now, if you're the Bears, you're just thinking, okay, let's get this season over with, and then we'll do the search for our next head coach. And if Thomas Brown somehow manages to find some lightning in a bottle these last 5 games, then maybe he's the guy. But I don't think they're going to go in that direction.
I think this is going to be a least attractable head coaching opening.
Yeah, exactly.
But talk about your Giants here. No Tommy Cutlets, but they still lost to the Dallas Cowboys, who got their first win at home, where you and I said, bro, they're done. But are the Cowboys doing something that's too little too late?
That's funny because that's the title of a JoJo song. But anyway, the Cowboys. It's too late. It's too late to say something. And I love how Micah Parsons was like, "Oh, we have a chance to go to the playoffs." No, you don't.
You can't be proud of this win if I were the Dallas Cowboys. It's the Giants.
And it's not even like they lost. They won in a blowout. They barely survived. So, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm thinking to myself, okay, we finally got the home schneid off our backs, but now we got to play the Eagles again. We got to play the Commanders again. So,
and they just beat the Commanders in DC because of this whole special teams debacle.
Yeah, well, that was just bad by the Commanders. And I can guarantee you, the way Washington has been playing, I don't think that's ever going to happen again.
So you're thinking a road and road split?
Yeah.
I feel like the Commanders should have won that game at home.
They should have. They should have put the Cowboys out of the misery, but lack of special teams really killed them in the end. But I feel like the Commanders, like I said, they will never let that happen again.
They're probably going to come into Big D wanting to get this win.
Absolutely. And then, like I said, they're playing the Eagles. I mean, you have a terrible run defense. You're playing possibly the league MVP this year again.
Oh, and Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts is a league MVP every year.
No. Saquon Barkley.
I said Jalen Hurts because Jalen Hurts, I still like Jalen Hurts. I think he's a great quarterback, but he's just had a rough year this year.
I mean, listen, the Eagles are not – the Eagles' philosophy on offense is ground and pound. Saquon Barkley has 1,500 yards rushing in 12 games. And Jalen Hurts is having a good season at this rate. He's not lighting up the scoreboard with his arm, but Saquon Barkley is lighting up the scoreboard with his legs. I mean, this is a guy who I am so happy for. The fact that he's in MVP shape. Yes, I want it to be with the Giants, but what more can I do at this point?
Yeah, the Giants, I feel like at this point, they're going to need a new quarterback. We'll talk about that a different day, but it's just the New York Giants are just done.
Yeah, stick a fork in them. They're done.
Yeah, losing Dexter Lawrence was bad.
Yeah, that was horrible.
I still think Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be very good.
I mean, listen, that Giants defensive front is great. Their secondary, no. Their offense, no.
And they think Evan Neal's a bust. And I'm like, is he really a bust? I'm like, if he's getting way too many penalties.
I mean, it's not even just the penalties. It's what he says off the field. I mean, you probably remember last year when he called the fans fast food workers for the Giants, which was not professional at all. He got ripped by the media for it. But if you're going to talk like that, you better back it up on the field. And right now, Evan Neal has not been disciplined on the field. He's getting penalized way too much because of his lack of timing. And it's also just a matter of just not blocking effectively.
Well, the cold continues to bother Tua Tagovailoa. The Miami Dolphins lost in the winter wonderland of Lambeau Field to the Green Bay Packers. And I'm like, that's not new to me if you're the Miami Dolphins. They cannot play in these type of conditions. They're going to make the playoffs. But if they play Buffalo in the first round of the playoffs, they're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, listen. Miami, like Tua stat-wise, actually played pretty well. They just could not establish a ground game in the cold. Devon Achane was lackluster on the ground. Raheem Mostert was no better. Jalen Wright was no better. So when you can't run the football in the cold, that just proves that you have a weakness that could be easily exposed. And you mentioned, playing Buffalo in the cold. Imagine going to Kansas City in the cold, or Pittsburgh in the cold, or Baltimore in the cold. Like, if you can't perform in January, then there's no use of you contending for a title anyway. I think the Dolphins have a good team, but if they're gonna make a run for the Super Bowl, they have to get home field advantage somewhere down the line over the next few years.
They are a team that can win the division. They can win in New York because the New York weather is 50-50.
Yeah, it's you don't know what you're gonna get, but on days where it's warm in New York, New Jersey, they can play fine. But it's already been guaranteed Buffalo's going to win the AFC East this year, so there goes the division.
Oh yeah, but as for Green Bay, they continue to get better. Jordan Love continues to improve, but I feel like that he needs a better receiving core.
Yes, I mean, I love the way this kid throws the football off his back foot. I think that the defense has been great. Josh Jacobs has re-energized himself playing for the Packers. I think that, yes, the receiving core is young and they are a little bit inexperienced, but this is also the same receiving core that dispatched the Cowboys last year in the playoffs. So, if you ask me, the Packers could use a veteran receiver. I don't think Christian Watson's going to be the leader of that receiving core. I don't think Jaden Reed's good enough. Romeo Dobbs isn't going to lead the charge, and I don't think Dontavion Wicks can lead the charge. I think that those four receivers are young, they're talented, but none of them really make big plays on a consistent basis. It's basically receiver by committee.
Oh yeah, Watson, Dobbs, I like those guys. I think Josh Jacobs has really carried that offense. Green Bay's defense has been a lot better this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they're hitting it on all fronts. You just wish that they'd be more consistent at the receiver position.
That would make Jordan Love be like Patrick Mahomes. But speaking of Patrick Mahomes,
oh my god,
I thought the Chiefs were gonna just blow the Raiders out of their misery, but they escape with a win again. I don't know what to think of this team.
I am so beyond confused. And by the way, let's just discuss what happened at the very end. So, Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders are driving for the go-ahead field goal with like less than a minute to go. Jackson Powers Johnson gives a bad snap to Aiden O'Connell, and the Chiefs recover it. But it was nobody moved at all from the Raiders. They should have called a false start. They called an illegal shift. And what happens when you call an illegal shift? When you call an illegal shift, it's a live ball. But nobody from that offense moved. So how can you call that an illegal shift?
Look, here's the thing. What you're saying is it's the refs that help the Chiefs again.
It's always the refs, and you know it's true.
Here's the thing. If you look on the internet about this game, Patrick Mahomes is presenting a jersey to the referee.
Yeah, they're giving them their Thanksgiving presents, and it's jerseys.
And the refs are getting paid every time they're doing Chiefs games, and the Chiefs are paying these refs to help them win.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible. Because
this is like what people say about during the Tom Brady era of the Patriots. There were times refs would help the Patriots win the game.
Yeah, but you know what? At least Tom Brady and the Patriots didn't make it so blatantly obvious that they got away with murder. The Chiefs, it's so obvious. How is it that you block a field goal? How is it that you win by the fraction of a toe? How is it that you win by a stupid penalty? How is it that you win when a team who was terrible down and out gives you a run for their money? How is that possible?
Here's the thing, Patrick Mahomes is pretty much not on the same page as Travis Kelce.
I mean, listen, the offense has not been great. They suck on third down, and they are literally inconsistent every single game.
Yeah, it makes me think that if I watch the Chiefs play in the playoffs, makes me want to go against them just because when you're if you're trying to go for a three-peat, their chances of a three-peat could slim down.
And I honestly think the way they've been playing this regular season just gives Chiefs fans that feeling that, oh no, we might be in for a disappointment. Because if you remember, the best teams who win in close games, like the Pittsburgh Steelers of 2020, for instance, they started 11-0. A lot of those games that they won were close, and they won the division. But when they played the Browns after a COVID delay, they got their butts kicked. That's what I think could happen here.
It could happen, but knowing Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, he is very unstoppable in the playoffs.
I get it. I get it. But this team does not play like a one seed. And I feel like I mentioned this before. If you play with fire for as long as the Chiefs have, eventually you're going to get burned. Whether it be by Buffalo, whether it be by Baltimore, whether it be by the Chargers, whether it be by the Steelers. And what I love about the AFC is that anyone in that conference, anyone, could win the AFC. Because it's a coin flip every game in the AFC conference. Like, the Steelers are good. The Ravens are good. They played bad against the Eagles, but who cares? They're good. The Bills are phenomenal. But, like, again, the Chiefs are not impressive this year. They're not.
Even if they get beat in the playoffs this year, this will give them time to reset and reform that dynasty.
And I think that that's what they need. I think they need to get a taste of reality that, hey, we played with our food too much.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, on to the Sunday games. I mean, Al-Shakir was penalized for that late hit on Trevor Lawrence, which costed him to be suspended for 3 games, which was uncalled for. And Trevor Lawrence, who I feel bad for, is possibly done for the year. And you talk about the Texans. This was an ugly win for the Houston Texans. They once were putting the game away, but they let Jacksonville get back in it.
With Mac Jones at the helm.
That makes me want to laugh because that's my former quarterback.
But like, as in regards to, like, I'll get into the game in a little bit of it, but I gotta talk about the whole Aziz Al-Shaair thing. Trevor Lawrence slid at a terrible time, and Aziz Al-Shaair's padded elbow was in the wrong position. That doesn't mean he necessarily intended to take his head off. And I hate how the announce team roasted Aziz Al-Shaair, saying, oh, he has no respect for his opponents. Oh, he has no honor playing the Jaguars. I'm like, come on, man. Like, calm down. Everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes you do the wrong thing at the wrong time. But I don't think this is entirely Aziz Al-Shaair's fault. Trevor Lawrence made a horrible slide. But to suspend him for 3 games, that's kind of pushing it a little bit. And I also believe that as bad as the season has gone for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think the last thing they wanted was to see their franchise guy get hurt. But now to the game really quick. The Texans are another team that have really underperformed this season. I mean, I thought this team was going to run away with the AFC South, and they're looking like they're going to do that, but the Colts are good, and the Titans can play spoiler, and the Jaguars gave them a run for their money. I just feel like the Texans, for the division that they are playing in right now, they should be better than 8-5.
Absolutely, they should. I think that they probably are going to still win the division, but we'll see how they perform in the playoffs. I don't think it's a sophomore slump for CJ Stroud. I think he's had a great second year, but the Texans, I think they're still a well-coached team.
They are a good team. I just feel like D'Amico Ryans has probably had to talk some nonsense into Aziz Al-Shaair to calm him down because things got out of hand in Jacksonville pretty early after that hit. I think the Texans are a good team, but I just am concerned about what they will look like come playoff time. I think they can beat the top wild card, which I think at this point will be either Baltimore or the Chargers, depending on who comes out. But like I said, the Texans need to play better.
Absolutely, they do. But The New England Patriots, I thought they were going to win this football game against the Indianapolis Colts, but Anthony, got to give credit to Anthony Richardson throwing a touchdown pass to Alec Pierce. Anthony Richardson got the ball, ran it into the end zone for a 2-point conversion. Joey Slide tried to kick a 63-yard field goal, which was not successful. But you know what? Even though the New England Patriots are eliminated from playoff contention, they competed in this game. I was really impressed the way they competed, but it wasn't the result I expected.
I think Anthony Richardson is probably the bigger story of the game than anybody. I think that even though, Richardson had that time on the bench, I feel like he performed really well, and I feel like he's starting to gain a sense of importance to being a starting quarterback in the NFL, and he's been playing really well ever since coming back from being benched. Yeah, go ahead.
And for the Patriots, it's not like how bad they're still really bad this year, but it's not like last year where they just gave up on themselves.
Yeah, listen, at least they're trying because they really know that they got a brand new regime and they want to make sure that they can give fans something to be proud of in the coming years. And right now, I think that they got a good product, but they just got to string wins together. And maybe they'll do that next year, but right now it's just, let's see what we got. And what they got is not bad.
It's not. They got a bye week this week, and then they are back at it again next Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. That's not going to be easy for them. They probably are going to lose that game. But after the Cardinals, it's going to be tough for them. They got to play Buffalo in like 2 weeks, in a 2-week window, like one in week 16, and then again in week 18, and then they got to play the Chargers in week 17.
It's a tough schedule. I think that even though they have the personnel to do it, they just got to learn how to deal with the hard losses before they can even compete and actually get faith in themselves. But they got a good team. They just got to gain more experience. And I think
it's a young team, but I really think what I've seen from Drake May is improvement every week, which I have seen. And I do think that the future is really bright for Drake May.
The kids played really well. I will give him that. I think that even though Drake May has had his fair share of struggles at times, I feel like he's found a way to execute the offense the way he wants to in an efficient manner. I think that even though I think maybe being on the bench for those first 4 games, I think helped him, if anything.
I mean, I bet it did. But talk about the Chargers-Falcons game for a minute. I mean, the Chargers, this was a great team win for the Chargers. And as for the Falcons, Kirk Cousins throwing 4 interceptions. Are you kidding me? That's the bad Kirk Cousins.
I mean, Kirk Cousins is one of the few quarterbacks where you're going to get the good and then you're going to get the really bad. As far as the Falcons are concerned, they should be afraid now because with Tampa Bay beating Carolina, which we'll get into in a second, they are now tied for first place in the NFC South. They were in cruise control a few weeks ago, but now Kirk Cousins is starting to regress, and there's even been calls to put Michael Penix Jr. in, but I don't think that will happen. I think that they've rid
possibly next year, based on what I'm hearing. Michael Penix could be the starter next year.
Yeah, I'm hearing that there's calls to bring him in like as soon as next week, but I think it's too late for that. I think that even though Kirk Cousins has had a couple of really bad performances over the last 2 or 3 weeks, you're in this position in first place. You have the tiebreaker over the Buccaneers because of him, and you should really ride with him the rest of the way. And if you feel like you need a quarterback change, if things aren't going well, then by all means start Michael Penix Jr. in the playoffs.
Yeah, but the Falcons. The Falcons. You're right. They should be afraid because Tampa Bay is starting to climb back in. We'll talk about that game in a minute, but talk about that Jets-Seahawks game. The Jets once had a 14-0 lead where they should have beat Seattle easily. But the Seahawks outscored them in the second quarter 16-7 and 10-0 in the fourth quarter to get this come-from-behind victory.
Never change, New York Jets.
Never changes for the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers, I thought he played pretty good. It seemed like he played pretty good to start the game, but it's that Jets defense that's just not good.
And you figure with Jeff Ulbrich being the new interim head coach that the defense would actually get better.
The Jets are not doing anything with Jeff Ulbrich.
That he's been a debacle since taking over for Robert Saleh. And I'm not too sure how this can be resolved. I'm really, really concerned about this Jets team going forward. And I don't even know if anyone wants to take the job. Maybe Mike Vrabel, but I'm just not confident that he's going to want him.
Yeah, I mean, what are we going to see next year from the New York Jets? We're going to see a new general manager that is probably not going to be Joe Douglas.
No.
And a new head coach that's probably going to be a coach that's coming off the streets.
Yeah, like Mike Vrabel is probably the one that they've been targeting more than anybody.
I think they've targeted him. I also think that the Jets, they're not really an attractable destination for a head coach.
Not really attractive, especially when you consider what Woody Johnson has done single-handedly to this team to make them bad. It's a shame. It really is a shame.
Well, Washington, after the Commanders snapped their losing streak, they beat Tennessee. But you know what? This was a great bounce-back victory for the Commanders.
Oh, this was a blowout, and they needed a blowout victory against a really bad team. And you mentioned it before. They lost 3 in a row. They bounced back. And I think that Jane Daniels has, again, made it interesting in that Rookie of the Year race between him and Bo Nix.
I forgot to mention that not only Drake May has been good for the Patriots, I also think Christian Gonzalez. I think he's had a breakout season, and I expect nothing but him to be our heart and soul of the defense for years to come after the game he had against Indianapolis.
Yeah, the kid's got potential there.
That kid was missed all last season, but I really am confident that the sky's the limit for Christian Gonzalez, just because even though our defense is so bad, Christian Gonzalez is kind of like he's learning to be our leader of the back end of the defense. I still think our offensive line still needs a lot of work. That's not the offensive line I don't want to. The offensive line that we have right now is just scrubs.
Yeah, and that's really that's a big issue for the Patriots. If you don't have a good offensive line, you're not going to produce good offensive football.
We have David Andrews is hurt. I feel like that if you have him starting, that's going to help Drake May keep him upright in the pocket.
Yeah.
Cole Strange, who is our best left guard, he's out for the year.
Yeah.
Those are big blows for us.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I were the Patriots, I would spend your first-round pick on an offensive lineman just to help bring it a little bit of life.
Yeah, I would want either a left or right tackle because you got to keep Drake May upright.
Yeah, I mean, but going back to the Commanders for a second, I just think that even though, the Commanders are in the 7th spot right now, they're probably firmly in the 7th spot right now because the NFC is so bad. The rest of the NFC is so bad. So the Commanders, I think, are in good position to make the playoffs. They're 2 games up on everyone else in the conference. And I think that even though, Jane Daniels has had his ups and downs this season, I think him and Bo Nix are going to be a very, very interesting race for Rookie of the Year.
Well, now we'll talk about the Bengals. They almost pulled off a miracle over the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they gave up 44 points to Russell Wilson, who people think he's washed.
You and I were kind of fumed about this. You mentioned it before, and we talked about it. The Bengals defense is atrocious. Like all but Trey Henderson, all 10 of the guys are bad, and I think Lou Almirono has seen much better days as defensive coordinator for this team. I think he's gone at season's end. That's how bad this defense is.
So you're saying Zach Taylor's going to shake up his coaching staff for 25?
Yeah, I would bring in a new defensive-minded coordinator to come in because I don't know why you're giving up 44 points to Russell Wilson.
Joe Burrow has to work extremely harder, which is frustrating.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because Joe Burrow actually leads the league in every single passing category, and the Bengals only have 4 wins this year.
You know what people are saying about Joe Burrow? He should force his way out of Cincinnati. You know what I'm like? No,
don't do that. You have a good foundation in Cincinnati offensively. I also feel bad for this team because at season's end, T. Higgins is going to be gone, and that stinks for them because T. Higgins has had a phenomenal year.
Yeah, T. I feel like the Bengals are more invested in Jamar Chase. That's Joe Burrow's boy.
But like the problem is if you give up on T. Higgins and you let him walk, you need to find a great second receiver. And other than Andre Yosefis, I don't really know who else would have the production T. Higgins has.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for the Bengals here. But the Steelers, I don't know why they're these wins. They're not a team that I was really high on in the beginning of the year just because Baltimore is the best team in that division.
I mean, listen, I've mentioned this before. Pittsburgh is amazingly coached. Mike Tomlin, 18 straight seasons with a winning record. Guaranteed. And you know what? He should give himself a pat on the back for that because that is just remarkable. Given the personnel that they have on offense, given the personnel they have on defense, given the age of all these players and veterans that are coming in to Pittsburgh, and they're still winning games. And they're still winning 9 games a year or more. And you can't really fault Mike Tomlin for that. He's done an amazing job, and I think he's probably going to be coach of the year.
He has done a great job. I mean, Mike Tomlin has always been an amazing football coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think defensively they've been fantastic. I didn't think offensively they would be good, but Arthur Smith, I mean, who's now taken over from Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator, I think the offense is much better than it was in the year prior.
And the system that Russell Wilson is running with Arthur Smith is not a complicated system.
Arthur Smith's system is more West Coast style run game.
Yeah, it's a balanced offense, and if things go wrong, throw to George Pickens. That's really the offense. The simple, basic chunk plays to get first downs, and if they want to throw deep for George Pickens, they'll do it. That's their offense.
Arthur Smith has done a good job as the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. I thought he got scapegoated in Atlanta.
I mean, listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers have great coaches across the board, and they wouldn't be in first place in the AFC North without great coaching. If this team didn't have the coaching staff they had, they'd probably have a losing record and in last place in the division.
Well, you got to give Mike Tomlin his roses for that. I think he's a guy that's really a no-nonsense coach. What I like about him is he really gets the players in the best position to win, but people just overlook him.
No, and I think that's how he's been defined his entire coaching career in Pittsburgh. He's always been overlooked because of the personnel that they have on offense. But Mike Tomlin is a former Super Bowl champion, and he's won 18 straight, and he's had 18 straight regular season winning records for a reason. It's because of his discipline and his preparation to the players. No one does that better than him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, him and John Harbaugh are right now the best coaches in the division.
And probably the best coaches in football. I think Bill Belichick leaving opens the door for Mike Tomlin being the best head coach in football.
Absolutely. But talk about the Vikings. Did you think that they just got lucky in this game? I thought they got lucky because the Vikings even scare me in 1-point victories over the Cardinals.
Talking about playing with fire. I mentioned the Chiefs are a team that plays with fire. This is even a more ridiculous situation because it's not like it's Patrick Mahomes. It's not like it's Tom Brady. It's not like it's Tom Brady. It's Sam Darnold.
Here's my thing on this quarterback situation in Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy is the man. He is going to be their franchise quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. I expect a lot of big things out of him, and I think that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a great football team, and people are going to be paying attention to them even more now with J.J. McCarthy under center and the receiving core he has. But the Vikings just can't catch a break with these 1-point wins.
Oh, my God. They get 1 to 3 point wins on a weekly basis, it seems. And New Orleans crazy, Loro. I know that Sam Darnold is not the most attractive quarterback to have as your starter for the Minnesota Vikings.
He's not.
He's not, but you know what? He's doing enough to win games. And the Vikings defense is spectacular. And
not that spectacular by all means.
I mean, they're not a world beater defense, but they're doing enough to win games. It's kind of like the Chiefs, except it's more head scratching. And Kevin O'Connell, give him credit too, because he's making Sam Darnold do enough to win.
Kevin O'Connell, I think, is the right. I've always thought Kevin O'Connell is the right coach for the Minnesota Vikings. He's designed a great offensive system for them, and I think that he's also a good quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, he's got the mindset to be a great coach in the NFL. I'm really, really hoping that this team. When we go over our playoff predictions later in the season, I have the Vikings if they get a wild card, which I'm thinking they're going to. Like right now, Minnesota has the first wild card spot. They play Atlanta, or Tampa Bay. If they play either Atlanta or Tampa Bay, I think the Vikings can come out on top in that situation. But obviously, there's still 5 weeks left in the season. There's still a lot of pieces that need to fall. And also, mention this, mind you, the Vikings have a chance at the 1 seed in the NFC.
It's going to be like 2017 all over again if that happens. Minneapolis Miracle at the U.S. Bank Stadium.
It's possible.
That was a game where I felt like back then that Drew Brees and the Saints should have won.
Oh my God! Listen, miracles happen. It happens.
Well, now we go into the later stage, the late games here, starting with the Rams and Saints. The Saints made this competitive, but they're losing a key guy on the offense that can play tight end and quarterback. He's their Swiss Army guy, Taysom Hill. That is a big loss for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, the poor guy tore his ACL late in the fourth quarter against the Los Angeles Rams. Darren Rizzi finally suffers his first loss as Saints head coach. The Rams needed this win in the worst way, and it looks like they're doing well right when they need to. They got tall task against Buffalo this upcoming week. But the fact that they're still in the division race, I think, is amazing, considering that they started off so poorly this season. But they have not lost faith in themselves. They're trying to keep whatever's left.
Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield had an ankle injury. Kyle Trask came in, but the Bucs found a way to win 26-23 over the Carolina Panthers.
And, I know Bryce Young had a rough start to the season with Carolina, but I mentioned to you off air, I think Bryce Young's turning a corner. I really think that he's improving. I really think Dave Canellis is doing everything he can to unleash Bryce Young in his full potential. And I really think that the Panthers could go somewhere if they play their cards right in free agency and in the draft. That being said, it stinks to lose his way off a Chuba Hubbard fumble, but the Bucs did what they needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, this Panthers team, it was bad to begin with, but I gave up on Bryce Young too soon, in my opinion, because I was like, Carolina's not a good situation for him, but I still believe in my Alabama boy that could be a franchise quarterback in a team that really needs something for their fans.
He's doing everything he can to make it work.
This was a Dave Tepper pick, not a Frank Reich pick.
I know. Dave Tepper wanted him. But like I said, I think Dave Tepper's kind of patting himself, is giving himself a nice little round of applause right now because Bryce Young, like I said, he's getting better. But
I always like talking about Dave Tepper because I always say Bryce Young, that was a Dave Tepper pick.
I know, but like at this point, Bryce Young's doing everything he can to keep his dreams alive in Carolina. Now, whether or not that
translates. But here's the thing about how are the Panthers going to be good again, and how are they going to sell tickets at Bank of America Stadium? Is it because will it be because if Dave Tepper becomes more patient with head coaches?
I think that basing the evaluation, if we're evaluating Dave Canellis' performance as head coach this season, he's pushing all the right buttons. Dave Canellis is doing everything right. I think that giving Bryce Young a second chance was a good thing because now it made Bryce Young understand, all right, I got to wake up now. And I think he's also made the defense better. I think the mentality he puts in the players is great. I think Dave Canellis has earned the right to stay in Carolina for at least another year. And the reason why I say it that way is because you and I both know how Dave Tepper is with coaches, and I think that this is not going to be a similar story.
It's not, because look what Dave Tepper's done in the past. Firing Ron Rivera, I give that a pass. That was not his that was not his hire to begin with.
No.
Matt Rule, he scapegoated him. And
Yeah.
he gave him that ridiculous 6-year contract,
And he
which he
didn't even live up to the contract.
and didn't live up to that.
Yeah.
Steve Wilkes, interim coach, he should have been the head coach there and given a second chance.
Yeah.
And then Frank Reich. I love that guy. That guy is a quarterback whisperer. I wanted things to work with him and Bryce Young, but it didn't.
Yeah, listen, it happens. But I think Dave Tepper's attitude might change after the way he's seen the Panthers play the last couple games. But I think this season...
It's because last year it was all drama for the Panthers because he dropped the F-bomb outside the visiting locker room at Nissan Stadium after the Panthers lost embarrassingly to the Tennessee Titans. Then he threw a water bottle at a fan in Jacksonville.
Listen, like I said, you don't have to like Dave Tepper, but you got to give the guy a little bit of prop for saying, you know what, your number one overall pick is working out right now. There's still plenty of time, but we'll see what happens next year. I think this season's over for the Panthers, but next year, the way they've been playing, I think they can take some positive energy from this season and bring it to next year.
In the Battle of the Birds in Baltimore, the Philadelphia Eagles came away with a 24-19 win. I went with the Eagles from the get-go just because I just thought that offensively they were better than what Baltimore is. And as for the Ravens, it's a heartbreaking loss. I mean, I don't want to be the guy that criticizes Justin Tucker for missing all these field goals. A lot of fans want him gone. And I'm like, look, it's been a rough year for Justin Tucker. He's still the best kicker in the league. But I also think that next year will be a bounce back year for Justin Tucker.
I mean, I saw a funny stat that actually came up on Get Up on Monday, and I think this is actually kind of astounding. Justin Tucker has missed 22 points worth of kicks. The Ravens' 5 combined losses were by 22 points. So just imagine what would happen if Justin Tucker was on his A-plus game that he's usually accustomed to. The Ravens would probably be unbeaten right now. But unfortunately, things have not worked out the way they've hoped for Justin Tucker. The Ravens also didn't look great offensively. And as no Lamar is in the MVP conversation, I think he kind of played himself out of that against the Eagles on Sunday. But Saquon Barkley, his odds of winning the MVP are kind of amazing, are skyrocketing right now. Like, if you look at the MVP race right now, I think it's between Barkley and Josh Allen. As crazy as it is to say that a running back could win the MVP award,
Adrian Peterson won it.
Yeah, 2012.
But anyways, I mean, the Eagles played a good football game. I mean, people always throw towels at them just because they play bad games and they blame Nick Sirianni for this or that. But we've always said the Philadelphia Eagles are a great football team.
And I think that those who criticized Nick Sirianni earlier in the year and are laughing at him saying, "Oh, he's a terrible coach. What's he doing here?" Well, who's laughing now, Eagle fans?
It's I don't know who's laughing now.
It's Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni's laughing now.
I think Nick Sirianni's a great coach, but he just overthinks too much.
And that's the problem. I think he can't get inside his own head. If he does, he'll make some bad decisions. But I think that during this 8-game win streak, he's done very well preparing this team for football games.
Well, the Buffalo Bills blew out the Niners in the Snow Bowl. I mean, it wasn't really it was a Snow Bowl, but the Bills, they're for real. And for the Niners, they want the season over with so that they could just get a lot of their injured guys healthy and ready for next year.
Yeah, so the report came out earlier this week saying that Christian McCaffrey is done for the remainder of the regular season. Even if the Niners make the playoffs, which would be a miracle at this point, he's not going to be 100% coming back. Jordan Mason's also done for the rest of the regular season. And on top of that, you can also factor in that Brandon Ayuk is gone and Nick Bosa might not come back. And we mentioned this off air. This is like 2020 all over again. The Niners were decimated with injuries and they missed out in the playoffs. They didn't have a good record. But I think this is a team that can bounce back next year. But, God, the injury bug just stings.
Yes. This is a team that when they have everybody healthy, this is a team that runs away with the division.
Yeah, but it hasn't been that way this year. Like I said, you didn't think Seattle could win the division. You figured that they'd be in last place. They're playing advantageous football.
So, anyways, now we'll talk about Monday Night Football. I mean, the Denver Broncos, what a win for them. I mean, that their defense in the fourth quarter, great job. Two pick sixes, Bo Nix, great job. The Denver Broncos are now taken seriously again.
And I love the way this kid Bo Nix is playing. I will got to give a little bit of a shout out to Jerry Jeudy for coming back to Denver in a Cleveland Brown uniform and having over 200 yards receiving. He had a phenomenal game, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. I love the way Jameis Winston has played, but we got the full Jameis Winston experience. We got the good and the bad. The pick sixes were the bad. The touchdown passes he threw and the deep balls he threw were great. But
he also is really good at racking up passing yards.
Yeah, he's a compiler. And I think that's a good trait for him.
And I felt like he could have been the franchise. He had the potential to be a franchise guy in Tampa, but I felt like some head coaches gave up on him too easily.
Well, they gave up on him after they signed Tom Brady, and then the Bucs have gone veteran quarterback ever since.
Oh yeah, I think that's how the Bucs operate. But you know, for the Denver Broncos, I think people thought Vance Joseph coming back to Denver was a bad move. That Denver Bronco defense is sneaky good under him.
It's a really good defense, and I think that maybe him coming back would have been a little bit of a socially awkward situation, but it's worked. It's worked. The Bronco defense looks great. Sean Payton is coaching the offense lights out. Bo Nix looks like the next Drew Brees. It's a really good time to be a Bronco fan, and they needed that win in the worst way against the Browns because if they would have lost, then all of a sudden the Indianapolis Colts would be right on their heels for that last wild card, and they play in Week 15. But I think the Broncos are not as concerned as they should have been heading into that game.
Well, now we're on to Week 14. We have some great games highlighted here. Let's start with talking about the Green Bay Packers visiting the Detroit Lions. I mean, Detroit, I think, is due for a loss. Green Bay needs I would think Green Bay would want to get this win so that they can have a good spot in the playoff positioning, but I'm picking the Green Bay Packers to win this game at Ford Field because Jordan Love likes playing there. And I think that the Green Bay, even though this is not a outdoor stadium, Green Bay can always play well indoors.
Well, the best indoor team in all the NFL is the Detroit Lions. They're playing at home in Ford Field, and they've been dominant at home. They look really good at home. And my reasoning for picking the Lions is if you could beat the Packers in the snow, in the freezing cold in Lambeau Field, and you're the best football team indoors, you should win this game easily. I'm taking the Lions.
Well, the Cleveland Browns are playing the Steelers again. The Steelers lost to the Browns in the Snow Bowl in Cleveland. But I like the Steelers at home. I mean, this is a team that Ben Roethlisberger dominated during the Roethlisberger era in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
But I like the Steelers at home.
Yeah, I'm going with Pittsburgh at home. I think Cleveland had their best chance to win a football game on Monday, and they just fell short. And I think it kind of just knocked all the adrenaline out of them at this point. So I'm taking the Steelers.
The New Orleans Saints are coming into the Meadowlands to play the New York Giants. I could see Tommy Cutlets coming back, but I'm not really too sold on the Giants winning this football game. I'm going to say the Saints in this game.
I'm taking the Saints as well. It hates me to say this, and also Drew Lock is starting again against the Saints in Week 14. So there's your answer for you. I'm taking the Saints. I just think that they're better. I think their season is not really going anywhere, but I think that they can salvage something by winning this game.
The New York Jets are going to South Florida to take on the Miami Dolphins. Oh, man. I think Miami's going to bounce back. I think the Miami Dolphins are going to blow the Jets out of the water in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. They play better in the heat, and they're going to get the chance to play in their home field again where it's a little bit warmer than Cole Lambeau, Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I'm taking the Dolphins.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are visiting Nashville, where they lost in blowout fashion at Nissan Stadium in Week 18. And I'm like, both teams are bad. But if you take a look at the offenses that they have, the Titans' offense is a little bit better just because you got Tony Pollard, you got former Jaguar Calvin Ridley, and then the Jags have Lawrence, Etienne, Christian Kirk, Bobby, Evan Ingram. And Tennessee is supposed to be that bad, but I am going to pick the Jaguars to win this football game.
All right, so Trevor Lawrence is on the IR, so he will not be playing.
Oh, my bad. I was saying I'm going for the Jags because I think my guy Mac Jones can step up.
That's fine. All right, so how important is this game in actuality? Not important.
I don't think it's that important. Both teams are terrible.
Now, both teams stink, so this game is not even close to important. But if I just had to go with the winner just because I'm picking the Titans.
Are you just like them at home because Jacksonville can't play in the cold of Tennessee?
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of warm in Tennessee. I wouldn't say it's cold. It's in the South, so it should be warm.
It should be unseasonably warm in Nashville, but the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
So Trevor Lawrence, I just heard, out for the year. Could return Week 18, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen.
Nah, they shouldn't even try. They're out of the playoffs anyway. They don't even need to do that.
Well, the Atlanta Falcons. They're playing the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins is playing against his former team. I'm going to go with you like that. Kirk Cousins takes the beats his old team with the you like that moment.
The Vikings. You know what? We've seen the good Kirk Cousins and we've seen the bad Kirk Cousins. The Vikings and Kevin O'Connell know the game plan for him. They know Kirk is a gunslinger. And even though you don't like Sam Darnold, I think he's comeback player of the year. And I think the Vikings win this game.
You're going for the Vikings in this game?
I'm going for the Vikings. I think even though Atlanta is talented, they can't really put a lot of offense together as long as Kirk Cousins turns the football over. I think that even though Sam Darnold has not been amazing, he doesn't break under pressure.
Well, not much to talk about the Panthers-Eagles game, but if I were to watch this game, it would be because of my Bama boys, Bryce Young and Jalen Hurts going head-to-head. But there can only be one winner. I'm picking the Philadelphia Eagles over the Carolina Panthers.
I'm making a statement here. This is a hot take right here. Eagles win, and Saquon Barkley gets 200 rushing yards.
Oh, yeah. He probably will reach that against a defense like the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, and the Carolina Panthers have one of the worst run defenses in football, and I think Saquon is going to take advantage of that and further alleviate his MVP case.
Well, the Las Vegas Raiders are going to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. I mean, I'm going to pick the Buccaneers because I really think they're starting to play good football at the right time.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bucs as well. I think the Raiders got no hope at this point. They got screwed, but they're not going to bounce back.
Now we'll talk about the Seahawks and Cardinals round 2 in the desert. In this game, I gotta say that, I think that I'm gonna pick the Cardinals. They could have won at Lumen Field, where teams have a hard time to play in, but I just like the Cardinals at home.
I'm gonna take the Cardinals at home as well. I just think that even though they lost to Seattle and they lost to Minnesota, I think they're due to win at home and knock the Seahawks off the pedestal and take first place in the NFC West back.
Well, the Chicago Bears, first game in the Thomas Brown interim head coaching era against the 49ers. I'm picking the 49ers, even though they're shorthanded. But if Brock Purdy plays, you know what? He gives the Niners the best chance to win the game.
This is a really tough one because as good as the Niners are, they are banged up, and the Bears are starting a new head coaching regime temporarily with Thomas Brown. Oh, it's a tough one. But you know what? I guess I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. I just don't trust the Bears defense as much as I used to.
Yeah, anyways. But now we'll talk about the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams. This is going to be a very good football game. Buffalo's amazing. The Rams, they're trying to stay in it. I like the Rams at home over the Buffalo Bills.
I think this could be a trap game for Buffalo. I think that even though the Rams are playing at home and East Coast teams don't play too well in the West, I do believe the Buffalo Bills have more left in the tank than the Rams do, even though this could be a trap game.
It is going to be a trap game for the Bills in Los Angeles because they're going to come into the California sun, but they're going to be playing inside SoFi Stadium.
I mean, it's a different feel from playing in the hot sun in California to playing in the cold snow in Buffalo.
This is, with the Patriots on a bye week, this is going to be a game that I'm most interested in. Going to wear my Chargers gear for this game as they take on the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. I cannot wait to watch this game again. I was at that game back in October, back in the end of September in Week 4 in LA when the Chiefs visited the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Chiefs escaped with that victory. I don't want to see any more escaping wins. I want Justin Herbert and my guy Jim Harbaugh to come into Arrowhead and pull off the upset in Kansas City.
So I had Buffalo winning the previous game, which would put them at 11-2. And I think that we talked about before, the Chiefs have played with their food for far too long. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do here. I think they're going to take the Chargers lightly, and the Chargers are going to make them pay. I'm going with the Chargers in Arrowhead to stick it to Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah. Taylor Swift is going to be there. I have a feeling. But I'm predicting that. How are the Chargers going to win? Cameron Dicker, the kicker, is going to kick a 35-yard field goal to win it.
I'm gonna write that down.
It's going to break everybody's hearts in Arrowhead Stadium.
And in that situation, if the Chiefs lose and the Bills win, the Bills would then get possession of the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, you got the Simpsons on another cast. You got the Mannings on another cast. The Cincinnati Bengals are coming into Big D trying to find their way to save their season. And they're 4-8 on the year because of their defense. And the Cowboys are not that good anyway. In this game, I want my guy Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to get it done and try to keep their playoff hopes alive.
The Simpsons. I will not watch the Simpsons cast. I will not watch the Manning cast. I will watch it with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. And give me the Bengals.
Well, it's also a homecoming of sorts because Troy Aikman is going to call a Cowboy game on Monday Night Football. The last time he did that was when the Cowboys got lucky against the Detroit Lions on Jimmy Johnson's Ring of Honor celebration when he said, I got one more thing to say is how about them Cowboys?
Oh, my God. Cringeworthy. So cringeworthy.
You know what? Do you think Stephen A. Smith will laugh if the Cowboys lose to the Bengals?
I think so, and I think that there's going to be a one-liner involving the Simpsons if that happens.
Yes, absolutely. But now on to some baseball off-season stuff. I'm hearing that the Juan Soto sweepstakes are rising. I mean, the Mets, the Dodgers are now one of the teams that offered him a contract.
So the way it works, and I've heard from Jack Curry, it's between 5 teams. It's between the Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays. Those are the top 5 teams. Also, if you're listening to a source like John Heyman, don't pay attention to that. He botched the Aaron Judge story, so don't listen to him. Um,
I'm
also,
not
don't
gonna listen. I'm not gonna. When it comes to offseason breaking news, I'm gonna trust Jeff Passan of ESPN more, just because John Heyman, I don't believe a thing he says.
and it never comes true. That's even more ironic. So anyway, it's between those
As,
five teams,
here, the reason why I say that is because every time I hear a John Heyman tweet, I'm like, is this breaking news or is this false?
and 90% of the time it's false.
It is. Like, he botched the Aaron Judge story, which was unprofessional.
Yeah,
John
that
Heyman,
was good.
the only reason why I like John Heyman is because of his voice.
Yeah, that's the only thing that he has going for him. But anyway, it's between those five teams, and from what I understand, the Yankees and Mets are the two leading contenders, and we both know why, because New York sports teams have the money. I would not be shocked if the Mets snag him. I wouldn't be shocked if the Red Sox get some traction, because I've heard the Red Sox are were in, gained Juan Soto's interest when he visited them. So I don't think that the Red Sox can be counted out. I don't think it's likely that they get Juan Soto, but I do think that if whoever signs Juan Soto is going to want to be the team that basically just gives Juan Soto some leeway. So basically, the player runs the show. Whoever signs Juan Soto. If the Red Sox sign Juan Soto, it's going to be the Juan Soto show. If the Blue Jays sign Juan Soto, it's going to be the Juan Soto show, and so on. However, if it's the Yankees who get Juan Soto, and keep in mind, the Yankees have not given Juan Soto a $600 million value contract yet. If that happens, I think Juan Soto will stay in line as a player and not take over the organization. That's the difference.
What do you mean by take over the organization?
So I mentioned before how the Red Sox and the Mets and the Blue Jays would be willing to give up their leadership priorities to Juan Soto if they give that massive contract and make Juan Soto basically run the organization the way he wants it. But if he stays with the Yankees, I think Hal Steinbrenner and Aaron Boone are going to basically tell Juan Soto, hey, listen, you're a player, know your role.
Yeah, and then the Dodgers are in the race too, which, if my Dodgers get him, then you know what my lineup construction would look like if I got Juan Soto in real life, and also when I play MLB The Show, because if Juan Soto's a Dodger, I pencil him in the 3 spot in the Dodger lineup behind Shohei and Mookie Betts. But for the Juan Soto sweepstakes, it's getting really interesting. And I do think I think he does sign before the winter meetings. If not before the winter meetings, it could be during the winter meetings or after the winter meetings.
Well, the winter meetings start tomorrow, if I'm correct. So it's got to happen soon. Maybe it might happen when we go to sleep. Who knows? Like, it can happen at any time. So be
But I do
aware.
know that he's. So basically, this is what I just saw on Twitter right now.
Okay.
Noah Kamaris on Twitter. He covers Dodgers Nation.
Okay.
He said the Dodgers are unlikely to sign Juan Soto, per Mark Feinsand.
Okay.
He says the Yankees, Mets, and Blue Jays and Red Sox have established themselves as the favorites, and the Dodgers would be wise to use that $600+ million on Teoscar Hernandez plus a starting pitcher. And we've talked about many times that Teoscar Hernandez is going to remain a Dodger.
And I think, you know what, if the Dodgers want to focus on getting their main stuff out of the way, then by all means do it. They already signed Blake Snell earlier this week. So I think that they have their starting pitcher situation wrapped up. They just got to find a way to keep Teoscar Hernandez, who said publicly he wants to stay in Dodger blue. So I wouldn't overexert my money to keep Teoscar and sign Soto if I'm the Dodgers.
Well, now that Blake Snell is a Dodger, I've always been a fan of Blake Snell. I've always liked him. I think he has ace-type stuff, a very funky delivery, kind of like Andy Pettit's funky delivery.
Oh, yeah.
And I was tired of the Dodgers facing him multiple times a year against the Padres and Giants, because I always think he's going to bring it every time. But why I've always wanted Blake Snell to be a Dodger is because in his career at Dodger Stadium, he has pitched lights out at that stadium. And I feel like that the things I will see from Blake Snell than I have in recent years, he's going to be consistent because I think he's a guy that still is an ace type pitcher. He's
Okay.
going to win multiple Cy Young awards. I think he's a guy that I I think that even though that with teams he's pitched, he's gone 5 or 6 innings in the past. I have a pretty good feeling that Blake Snell is going to go 7 to 8 innings per game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Blake Snell has not had a lot of games where he's gone 6 innings or more, but he's a warrior when he gets on the mound. He has a lot of 20 pitch innings, but when he doesn't have a 20 pitch inning, he's one of the more dominant starters in baseball. So I think that the Dodgers are playing their cards right by this. And like I said, if they don't get Juan Soto, it's not the end of the world for them at least.
It's not. I mean, I also want to get this off my chest. We're also rumored to get Nolan Arenado, and I'm like, I know he's a good defensive third baseman. I know he can still hit for power. I don't think we really need a guy that's aging in Nolan Arenado.
God bless you. Now, are you fine with what you have at third base?
Oh yeah, I still like Max Muncy. I think Max Muncy is a vital piece to our lineup. I mean, his defense is not the best in the world at third base, but I also think that Max Muncy just has power and pop in the middle of the lineup.
He has proven that in the postseason. He proved that he can hit well when it matters. Nolan Arenado is an interesting case. I think that when we get to the winter meetings and all these free agents get signed, we could probably take a deeper dive into them. I'm just waiting for the Juan Soto news of it all because we've got news that Kyle Higashioka signed with the Rangers. We got news that Aroldis Chapman signed with the Red Sox. But we're waiting for that big signing.
Yes, we are waiting for that big signing, but do you think Arenado will be a Dodger or no?
No.
Because it's between both our teams. The Dodgers and Yankees are definitely interested in trading for Nolan Arenado. And I'm like, I don't think we need him. I like him, but I just feel like we're focused. The Dodgers are just focused on keeping Teoscar Hernandez. I also think that we just extended Tommy Edman, who I think is going to play either center field or shortstop.
Right.
We don't really need a Willie. Basically, when we gave Tommy Edman an extension, we basically said we didn't need a Willie Adames.
Yeah, so the Dodgers pretty much have their starting lineup set. And I can probably tell you, I think Nolan Arenado might have a better shot going to the Yankees because think of it this way. If we do sign Arenado, that takes the pressure off of signing Juan Soto if we can't afford him because Arenado would play third base. That's where he's accustomed to playing. You probably put Jazz Chisholm out in the outfield, and you put Judge in center, and you probably put Dominguez at right. So that's
Jazz could play center field too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Jazz could play in the outfield. So if we do get Arenado but not keep Soto, then you have some ways that you can kind of finagle around this. But obviously, people want to keep Juan Soto in the Bronx because of how well he did last year.
So basically, in my show league, I sent you like what my plans are for my Dodgers lineup, like either putting Mookie Betts in right field or putting him in the infield.
Yep, I remember those plans.
So basically, and then my lineup was going to be Mookie Betts leading off, but I'm going to put Shohei at lead off.
Yep, I remember those plans.
For pretty much every game. And then you also remember when I'm planning to make Blake Snell the Dodgers opening day starter so that Tyler Glasnow
I'm well aware of that. Yep.
So that Tyler Glasnow can be part of the World Series championship ring ceremony.
Uh-huh.
And then he starts in game 2. And the reason why I did that is because I just think Blake Snell, I think fans want to see him right away.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought it was going to be Glasnow, but I decided to go with Blake Snell to be my opening day starter for the Dodgers.
Yep.
Because, I've always been a fan of Blake Snell. him being a Dodger is going to make us a better starting pitching team. But do you think the Dodgers with Blake Snell, they're going to have the best rotation in baseball?
I mean, now that you also got the fact that you can have Ohtani pitching every 6th day, I think is amazing for them. So the Dodgers have a lot of ways to mix and match their rotation. And I think another reason why this was a good move with bringing in Blake Snell is because I don't think Clayton Kershaw has a lot of years left in him. So after Kershaw retires, at least you now have a good 5th starter in your rotation.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Blake Snell throws high velocity. So does Tyler Glasnow. So does Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Shohei Ohtani's going to do that once he starts back to pitching. I think Ohtani is still not only a good pitch hitter, but I'm anxious to see him being back the modern day Babe Ruth again.
And look out, baseball, for when that happens. That could be something amazing.
Well, there's something I want to tell you that I also was not a fan of because Commissioner Rob Manfred said something about that Major League Baseball is looking to add a golden at-bat rule for games. Basically, when it's the 9th inning, you basically choose your best hitter based on what order of the lineup you have. When I saw that, Matt, I'm like, is that pure stupidity by Rob Manfred? I'm like, why are you trying to do something that's not going to make sense?
It's funny because it literally doesn't make any sense. What is this? Like MLB The Show?
What is Rob Manfred trying to do to baseball? Like, this golden at-bat rule basically means that later in the game, a team can only use it once, and you choose that hitter based on the order of the lineup that you hit. And I'm like, why are you trying to do something that to make the game better? Like, I know I give Manfred credit for pitch clock and ghost runner. I agree with all that.
God,
but golden at bat, that does not make sense to me.
It's funny because I talked with a bunch of other friends of mine about this, and I can tell you right now, this would be the stupidest thing that Rob Manfred has ever done if this goes through. Because the whole point of a baseball game and a batting order is you basically just go with your lineup and then you run through it. That's what makes it dramatic. Like, I know there's probably like, okay, so if my 9-hole hitter stinks and he's required to go up, give him a chance. What do you want to do? You want to put your lead cleanup hitter in there at from 4 to 9 just to get a game-winning hit? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And another thing that's wrong with this as well, what's the point of pinch hitting in this case?
Oh my God. What? We've said it time and time again that Rob Manfred is bad for baseball.
Yeah, and thank God he'll be gone in a few years. But like I said, if this golden at-bat thing goes through,
you know what we should do?
What?
Wear paper bags in front of Major League Baseball's office to protest and put clown emojis for Rob Manfred.
No, seriously, there needs to be a protest if that happens because it's the stupidest thing you could think of. Why are you doing this?
I had to bring this up because I'm like, why is Rob Manfred bringing up foolish ideas to make baseball better?
Like, listen, I love the pitch clock. I love the bigger bases. I love banning the shift. I love the ghost runner.
I love all of those that you said, but golden at bat?
Like, now he's just getting too cute, and I don't like this idea.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Manfred, I mean, that's just ruining baseball.
Exactly. It ruins the sport.
I did not agree with this golden at bat thing at all. I don't support it.
What are you trying to get out of that? What are you trying to get out of a golden at bat? Now they're probably
Nothing.
They're managers that can be stupid and use their golden at bats in the beginning of a game. If you're only getting it once and you use it, what's the point?
You don't really need it just because it was because Rob Manfred was was flirting with the idea at the owners at a recent owners meeting.
But again, like, what is the purpose of having a bench? What's the purpose of having to pinch hit somebody? What's the purpose if you do this? You're taking up less roster spots this way.
That's something I don't. That's something I don't really agree with. I don't think they should look into that. I also don't think Major League Baseball should consider a salary cap, even though there's rumors about it.
That's another thing I want to get into. I know we're on this good baseball. One of the things the Dodgers have done so well in signing free agents is the deferrals. If it weren't for deferrals, and if there was a salary cap, you couldn't afford Ohtani, you couldn't afford Tommy Edman, and you couldn't afford Juan Soto if you got him. So if there's a salary cap in baseball, which should be allowed, then these major contract signings that have long-term commitments will cease to exist.
Yeah, because Major League Baseball is going to propose to that. I mean, I know that we had the lockout in 22, and Rob Manfred didn't handle it well. But I'm comparing it to the then and now. That before, when we had this stupid lockout, I felt like baseball was in a bad place then. But now baseball's in a good place.
Well, they had to get the CBA passed, and once the owners and players stopped crying like babies and Rob Manfred actually put his foot down, things worked.
Yeah, I think now baseball's in a better place. I still think we're going to get a new CBA before it expires, but it's going to be a little bit bumpy.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think if we do get a new CBA in a year or two, be on the lookout for stupid stuff like the golden at bat. Like, this is like you mentioned being bumpy. They could come up with new ideas for this new CBA that a lot of fans might not like.
Well, this is Rob Manfred's last CBA that he's negotiating.
And thank God for that.
And I also think the players union is not going to agree on. I don't think the players union is not going to agree on everything.
They're not. They're not. I mean, listen, the players and the owners.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
The players union is going to propose some ideas to the owners that they won't agree with, which I get.
Yeah.
The players union is also not going to agree to everything what the owners propose.
And this is exactly what happened in 2022. Only the degree of disagreement that transpired in 2022 during the lockout was bad. So bad that games were almost canceled.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get into that situation again.
No, I don't think so either. And if we do get that situation again, then baseball is in trouble. But I don't think that happens.
I don't. I think that because when it comes to these negotiations, I always support and stand by the players' side of things than the owners.
That's fair.
Because I always agree with what Tony Clark says.
Yeah.
We're not going to have a salary cap in baseball. That's something I agree with Tony Clark with.
I agree as well.
I also agree that that based on the things he says, he always says that sometimes things are unnecessary.
Exactly. Like, I feel like there are some certain things that you can absolutely work around. And I feel like the new CBA has worked out so well to the point where there isn't much to complain about. But this new CBA that comes out in a year or two, that's going to be something that might have to be managed at a rate that we haven't seen before, because I don't know if the players and owners are necessarily going to agree on every single detail.
They're not going to. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean the owners are going to lock the players out for that.
Yeah, because we cannot afford what happened in 2022 ever again.
Oh, of course not. I hated it so bad because I was like, December, who could care less about baseball in December?
I know.
Because it's the holidays. We want to watch football and basketball at that time.
Right.
I only cared about it in like January or February.
Yep. Same.
So that December's not really a time for us to care about baseball.
Hey, listen, we will care when we see what happens with Juan Soto.
Yeah, but to repeat, I just don't picture a salary cap in baseball. It's
No,
to
no
repeat,
salary cap, no golden at bat, no
it's
shenanigans.
bad. I love baseball all my life,
Yeah,
and Rob Manfred thinks he's Bud Selig, and I'm like, he is no Bud Selig.
no, not at all.
Bud Selig was a 10 times better commissioner.
I love that guy. I respect that man more than
I
I
res-
respect this guy.
I respect Bud Selig a ton. I
Hmm.
wish he was still the commissioner now, but eventually he had to retire.
Yeah, it happens.
So, and Rob Manfred worked for Bud Selig, and that's how Rob Manfred took over for him.
Right.
So, I'm hoping that who the next commissioner is, I'm hoping maybe in the short term it's Joe Torre.
Yeah.
I would think Joe Torre would make baseball great.
He's been a great ambassador for the sport. I would be shocked if they don't go him next in line.
They could go him. I could also think maybe Dan Hallam, the deputy commissioner, could be in line to succeed Rob Manfred. He was part of he was the lead negotiator for the owners during the 22 lockout.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind Dan Hallam
Right.
because he was the lead negotiator for the owners.
That's true. So listen, there are some options for you to play with if you're Major League Baseball. But like I said, Rob Manfred's got another few years, and I hope he does play his cards right because we cannot afford to go backwards with this.
No,
sport.
he can't go backwards. I mean, here's the thing. I watch Rob Manfred's press conferences just for me to get information on baseball.
Yeah.
But and press conferences too. That's when I listen to Rob Manfred speak.
I know.
Sometimes I want to put my earplugs on if he says something that I don't like.
Yeah.
Because Rob Manfred, I don't think is that good of a commissioner.
No.
If you were at a Yankee game and if Rob Manfred was there, just for a special event at Yankee Stadium,
I would just probably ignore him and not acknowledge him.
I actually heard him in person once because he was at Dodger Stadium for Tommy Lasorda's 90th birthday party, and I heard him speak then, and I've also seen him in LA a bunch of times.
So basically, to put a wrap on this whole baseball thing up, Rob Manfred has proven that he can elevate the sport to new heights, but I don't think he's well respected by the fans, and that's usually what happens with commissioners.
Absolutely. I mean, Rob Manfred's done a good job of putting baseball to new heights, like creating international games.
Yeah, that's another thing I didn't give him credit for. Yeah.
I mean, international games, also playing games at the Field of Dreams site.
Yeah, like special games, which I think is a good thing that he's done.
But I also think that I just don't think fans respect the guy.
Especially not in Oakland. Oakland people hate that guy.
Not only that, I think Astro fans don't like Rob Manfred.
That's true.
Astro fans hate that guy because of the whole sign stealing debacle. Every time I watch the All-Star Game trophy presentation, I always hear loud boos.
Yeah, that's how it goes. It's like it's the Roger Goodell effect. Like commissioners are going to get booed unless you're Adam Silver. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll still stick to baseball here, but Willy Adames. Do you think Willy Adames? I think the Dodgers are out of the equation for Willy Adames. Is it between the Braves and the Giants for Willy Adames?
I think it's the Braves. I think that they have a lot more to offer than the San Francisco Giants do. I think that Willy Adames wants to stay in the southern-ish part of the U.S. And I think that Atlanta would be a good spot for him.
Well, yeah, because Orlando Arcia, I don't think he's that. I mean, he's good defensively, but I feel like the Braves would like to add a power-hitting shortstop to help boost that lineup.
Yeah.
Because, with the Braves, you're going to get Acuna back, not right away. You're going to get him back at some point during that season.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Braves, I expect them, when we make our division picks, I think the Braves win the NL East.
I can agree with that. I think the Phillies are going to take a step back.
And the Mets are going to be right there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Corbin Burns, I heard he wanted to sign with the Dodgers, but do you still see him landing with the New York Mets?
I see the Mets more likely than the Dodgers, especially because the Dodgers just signed Blake Snell. It'd be hard for me to see them acquire 2-star pitchers in a row.
Well, give me your thoughts on Frankie Montas signing with the New York Mets.
You've messed up in one New York area. Try not to mess up again.
Probably because he knows Carlos Mendoza.
Yeah, so he had the in for the Mets, which is why he got a second chance to play in New York. But if you're Frankie Montas, this is your second chance to play in the Big Apple. You better not mess this up.
You're in Queens now than in the Bronx.
Exactly.
Well, and another question is, if Juan Soto signs with the New York Mets, do you see him and Pete Alonso being a good 1-2 punch in the middle of the Mets order?
I think if you're the Mets, I don't think Alonso has any place to go other than the Yankees because Anthony Rizzo's already said that he's walking. He's not coming back to the Bronx. So I think the Yankees and the Mets are the best two options for Pete Alonso. And I think they're the best two signings for Juan Soto. I think that in New York, we had a stock market crash in New York back in 2008. This is going to be a financial burnout in 2024 between who's willing to spend the most for these two guys.
It's between Hal Steinbrenner and Steve Cohen.
Yep.
I know I've been 50-50 on Hal Steinbrenner. I don't think he's that good of an owner, but I give him credit for keeping Aaron Judge and naming him captain.
I mean, listen, though, Hal Steinbrenner is nothing like his father. Let's just get that out of the way. And I think that even though Hal has not shown as much aggression as George Steinbrenner did, Mr. Steinbrenner, rest in peace.
Oh, I know you like George Steinbrenner. He was a Hall of Fame owner of the New York Yankees.
Yeah, he was a class act, and you know what? He lived a great life, and he was a great owner. But Hal, I think, commits to people too long and never lets them go without a second thought. And by the time he gets to his second thought, he's made up his mind. Like, I think Brian Cashman has stayed here way too long. I think that Aaron Boone has overstayed his welcome a little bit. I know he took him to the World Series, but Cashman, I think, has overstayed his welcome. He's been here for, 25, 26 years already.
You say that all the time, and, I still think Brian Cashman is still a fantastic executive for the New York Yankees.
He's a great executive with a good, sharp mind. But lately, his acquisitions have not been great, except for Juan Soto.
Like, what if I'm hearing your Yankees might had a meeting with Max Fried. What if you get him? I think that would be a fantastic addition to the Yankee rotation.
It would be a fantastic addition to the Yankee rotation. One thing I do want to say, because I got to get going for a meeting in a little bit, but one thing I am going to say about Max Fried, if we get Max Fried to up the rotation, I think that the Yankees are going to try and increase their pitching. They brought Garrett Cole back, which I think they had to do. But I think if you're the Yankees, Brian Cashman has proven that he can make amazing deals, but he needs to have at least one more in his back pocket that he knows he can execute. Juan Soto will be one, but Max Fried will be a good second.
Well, yeah. Anyways, now, with that being said, we'll dive quickly into some college football here. I mean, which championship game are you most excited about?
Okay, I'm going to go with the Big Ten championship game just because that's my conference. I know Oregon and Penn State are both in no matter what, but it is good to see, the Big Ten getting some representation in the college football playoff because Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, and Penn State are all in. I think if you're Alabama, you need Clemson to win you need SMU to win the ACC title just so you can get in.
Well, and then for the NBA, I mean, the Lakers not defending their NBA Cup. Do you think that does it really hurt the Lakers, or do you think the Lakers need to play better?
Well, I think it's just a sign that the Lakers need to play better. I think that even though they're not going to win the NBA Cup, you and I have both said that the NBA Cup is nothing amazing. It's a bit of a salary bonus, and then also just the luxury of holding another trophy. That's really what it is. But I think if you're the Lakers, you're in decent position right now. I think that this is a sign that, you know what, maybe we need to step up and play better. And I think they can do that.
The Brooklyn Nets are surprisingly hanging in there without with
The Nets are in
everything they've gone through.
The Nets are in the play-in tournament at this point with everything they've gone through. They lost Mikal Bridges. They've had some bad acquisitions like Ben Simmons, and they're hanging in there. They play the Pacers tonight, and if they win that, you're saying there's a chance.
Well, and then for college basketball purposes, UConn has dropped to 25. They had a bad taste of their mouths in Maui. Do you really think that? Do you really think that? Do you think that UConn is going to start turning a corner?
I think, well, they play Baylor tonight. If they win that game, I think they can just take over from there. I think that Marquette right now is the favorite to win the Big East. I think if UConn wins against Baylor tonight and they propel back up the rankings, because they dropped from 2 to 25 after a bad trip in Maui, Hawaii. If they bounce back, I think that they're going to be on their way to a 3-peat, but I think they have a lot of work to do.
I know you have to go somewhere, but have a good day.
Take care, everybody.